My name is Justin Apt, and this is how I live my work.
Hello, welcome to Living the Work. Today we're here with Justin. I'm so happy to have you here today. We've met for a while ago in different
We
circumstances.
did, yeah, different circumstances through the gym, and then we did some business together as well.
Yes,
So that's always nice.
exactly. Yes. So let's just dive right in.
Sure.
So, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do and who you are?
So my name is Justin Apt, and what I tell everybody is I'm involved in real estate and I'm an educator. So those are my two main my two main occupations, I will say. I am involved in, plenty other ventures, but I would say my main two aspects of what I do on a general daily basis is educator and also just real estate, whether it's real estate sales, property management, renovations. So anything that involves any form of real estate transaction is what I just tell people I'm involved in.
Okay. And how do you hustle all the different things you do? Like you're saying that you do different things. Is that like a seasonal, like you do seasons or do you do them all year long?
So,
Or?
obviously with education, with me being a teacher, that's, August until, the end of May. I would say during that time when I am involved with, my other ventures that there is some overlap. But I think what I've learned over the years is, time management is everything. And so what I've learned is I've learned how to do the things that I need to do on a daily basis while also still implement my other career ventures that I do on a daily basis. So, summertime is really good for me because I am off, from the school. And so I'm able to dive in a little bit further into the real estate sales portion of it or, renovations. And as of late, been trying to do more content, and that really opens up my time to be able to do that stuff.
Yeah, okay, okay. So then you get the variety like already set up, kind of
Yes.
like throughout the year. Okay, that's interesting. That's a good setup, I think. Like, you don't use your vacations as a vacation.
No, yeah, vacations are usually an opportunity for me to get some more stuff done. I do take some
Yeah.
time for myself. This summer I was, fortunate enough to be able to go to Cancun for a friend's wedding. So that was a really nice getaway to actually not have to do any work. I will say there was very little work that was done, and it was more of an opportunity to be able to relax and just enjoy that downtime with, friends and those that are close to us.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. That's good that you get also that free time for yourself and for to
Absolutely.
reconnect and like, enjoy the profits,
It's important,
in
and
another way.
yeah, and that's something that I've struggled with over the years, and I'm still trying to get better at is to, that just understanding that the difference between work and relaxation and just, being able to enjoy,
Yeah.
the profitability, and being able to do certain things and not have to always be working.
So if you would ask yourself like, what do you work for? What would be the answer?
That's a very good question. I work for comfort. I like nice things. I enjoy spending time with, family and friends, and I think that's a big part of why I'm involved in so many different, careers and business ventures is because I'm just a firm believer, especially now in this economy. I'm just a firm believer in trying to have as many streams as revenue as possible, to be able to enjoy, certain liberties, vacations and just the opportunity to be able to, again, spend time with family and friends and everything like that. I'm not so much of a materialistic person, but it's more just knowing that if I could go do something, I have the liberties to go do it because I've worked hard for it. And so that's for me, it's having that peace of mind, having comfort, knowing that, I'm, in charge of the things that I get to do in my daily life. And, I try and tell myself, it's not necessarily the harder you work, but I think it's just being smart with the opportunities that you have and taking advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, exactly. I think you said it right there. Like it's not working more.
Right.
It's just working smarter.
Smarter.
Like setting systems
Correct.
that let you, be efficient, do what you do for the reason that you're doing it, but also to, like you're saying, enjoy the free times and the invest, you know, and also that time for yourself and for your
Right.
family and friends. So what is your let's say if you have an extra money, what would you spend it on? Like one, two, three.
You know, I think right now the thing I like doing the most is I really enjoy being out with friends. So,
So social.
again, yeah, it's the social aspect of it. It's just knowing that, if I have friends that, want to go have drinks together or go maybe have dinner or do something like that, I think that's really the thing for me is just that quality time with people. It's hard for me to put a dollar amount on things that I really enjoy, but I'll say my number one and primary investments all involve real estate. So, I own two homes right now. I've had some other rental properties as well, some of my own, some through a business partner, and it's just afforded me the ability to be able to invest in those types of things, and just knowing that it's a long term, process. But with rental properties, there's always something that needs to be addressed, and it's usually something that costs quite a bit. So I'll
Yeah.
say it's more so, opportunity to hang out with family and friends, and then also just knowing that I have money aside so that I can address issues when it comes to my rental properties or anything like that that maybe I need to address at that time.
Okay, so like to be prepared, but also like spending it on like travel, right? You do travel,
I
social.
travel, I'm more of like an in-state traveler.
Okay.
I'll go and, I have actually my sister lives, she lives in Stockholm with her husband and kids. And so I've traveled to visit them. I'll make trips to California, trips to, Las Vegas with friends, but I'll say most of my travel usually revolves around, Houston, Dallas, Austin, places where I can get in my truck and just drive.
Not international?
Not international.
Right.
I'll do it. I'm just I'm more simple when it comes to that. It's one of
Okay.
those things where that's always where I've kind of differed from one of my sisters who loves to travel. She's the one that lives in Stockholm, and but it's just one of those things where I'm very comfortable with the things that I've done, and I know exactly where I'm going to go to when I go visit friends in Austin. I know exactly where I'm going to go to when I go back to Houston. Spent a number of years there in college, and then a little bit of my young professional adult life there as well. And so I just enjoy being able to pick up and drive to where I need to get to.
Yeah.
Not opposed to international travel. It's just I always have to have somebody that says, "Hey, do you want to go do this?" And so
Oh, okay, so you need someone to tell you, let's go to Switzerland, and then you go.
absolutely. So,
Okay, so you're putting it out there so that everybody, see if
Yes.
someone wants to invite you, you're
just
open.
just let me know and
Just say
we'll
it.
talk about it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's good. So before the career, the title, and everything you built, what did the younger version of you dream about?
So the younger version of me was always involved in every sport. I grew up playing, football, basketball, baseball. I ran track in high school. And so for me, sports were a really big part of my life. And, as I got into high school and, had an opportunity to play at the collegiate level, I think it was one of those things where, if I had the opportunity to pursue that at a professional level, that was something that I dreamed of as a kid. And that was
In
something
which
that
sport?
in football.
Football.
Yeah. And so that was really what drove me. Just my involvement, with athletics in general. And I think once I got to college, I fell in love with the business aspect of sports and wanted to do more behind the scenes stuff, such as the marketing and the finance and the advertising and things that people really don't see at sporting events. Once I realized that the professional route for me wasn't going to happen, at that point my mind transitioned to, well, how can I still be involved, in sport and still also, have my cup filled per se, in terms of being able to do those things, but also, like I said, work more of the behind the scenes stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I became a coach for a little bit. And I coached at the middle school level for 1 year. I coached at the high school level for about 7 years. And so that was also my intro into education. And so, I think me being able to be involved in education and still being able to coach, that was something that I really enjoyed doing. And now my involvement, with the gym, Bedlam CrossFit, where we met, being able to coach there, and just I have that same type of fulfillment, just being involved in the competitive mindset of athletics and just competition in general.
Yeah.
But I would say growing up, it was definitely more sport driven more than anything else.
So you wanted to match your passion for the athleticism, let's call it like that, right?
Yeah.
And so how did you find it, the relationship of like the coaching, teaching, whenever you saw that that was not going to be the path, to pursue the football career?
Yeah. So I guess when repeat it one more time.
Like, in which moment, okay, you're saying, okay, I'm playing football, this is
Right.
what my dream, I'll give it my all, and then as you keep growing and educating and all of that, like, you did what career?
Well,
What specialty, or you did in education?
in education,
Okay,
yes, yeah.
okay.
So started when I got into education, I was a football coach, did baseball as well, also a teacher. But I'll say the things that I got fulfillment out of that from was helping those young students kind of go down that same path.
Yeah.
And think that maybe I could make some of this, but it was also more so instilling the things that I learned growing up playing sports, which was just commitment, camaraderie, loyalty to your teammates,
Yeah.
and just that willingness to really just want to excel. I think that the lessons I learned growing up, in terms of the work ethic and just constant grind of being able to, or wanting to excel at that next level was kind of what drove me. And, once I figured out that, that wasn't going to be my path, it was
Yeah.
like, well, how can I still, again, be involved and also help others that are going down that same path?
Yeah. And did you know that you had that like teacher side of you?
I didn't know I had the teacher side of me. I will say I just, I was involved in sales at a very young age, mostly because, that was what my mom did growing up. And I'll say, from working in sales in high school to college and really trying to go down that route, I think I just treated education as almost more of I just treated it as another sales opportunity, because as a teacher, you're constantly having to sell yourself to those students to get them to buy into the content that, that you're trying to teach. And so I've always looked at every aspect of my life in terms of, I've looked at it as a sales opportunity. So whether it's, public speaking, or whether it's talking to students, or whether it's just being able to have people buy in to what you believe in, I think that it's always an opportunity. And I think it's all sales driven. And I think that's something that has helped me kind of branch off into these different avenues that I've gotten into, is just that ability to be able to, approach it as a sales opportunity, whether you're coaching, teaching, or you're selling a product. I think that you're essentially doing it the same. You're doing it the same, you're just doing it in different aspects.
Yeah, that's true. I never saw teaching as selling, but I guess to a point, yeah, like you're selling yourself, like maybe not selling yourself, but probably like trying to get that trust.
Trying to get the trust,
to get that confidence.
trying to get them to buy in to what you're trying to do. Obviously right now it's, education is a very tough field, and it's hard to keep students engaged and motivated. And at the end of the day, let's be honest, no high school student wants to be sitting in a classroom.
Exactly.
Well, what can I do to make it as enjoyable and knowledgeable that I can for that particular student, and so I think it's super challenging, because you have so many different, personalities and aspects and backgrounds at home and financial situations, and so it's all so different. I think it's really special to be able to get a student to really buy in, to what you're doing, and and like I said, and have them leave at the end of the year with at least some sort of appreciation, and like I said, they may or may not be able to apply it, later on, but as long as they can come up, at the end of the school year and say, hey, I really got something out of this, and I think that's really where that kind of comes from.
And you got to keep yourself like, so what keeps yourself grounded to like, because I feel I relate it to being a parent, right? Like you're supposed to be teaching them on how to manage emotions and how to trust that you are the leader, that what you say, it's supposed to make sense in order to get you or be better or something, right? So what makes you ground yourself to say, yeah, I'm someone who can teach you something,
Yeah.
and I'm confident enough to share it, and you should trust me, like, because sometimes we even doubt ourselves.
Right,
So it's like,
exactly.
how do I not reflect that?
Right. I think for me personally, I only try and teach the things that I can provide. And so, for instance, I'm very structured, with my lifestyle and my day. And so I don't believe in preaching something that you can't do yourself. So when I'm preaching, time management to the students or following through or being committed, I'm somebody that works, that wakes up, 4:30, 5 a.m. most days, so that I can get as much stuff accomplished as my day as possible. My work day is very diverse, from being in the classroom to going into work meetings at lunch to going back into the classroom to being back out on the field, maybe checking in on job sites or following up with clients and things of that nature. So I think it's been my ability to really manage the different things that I do in a day and explain to the kids it is something that is possible. It may not be something that you enjoy at first, but it's something that's going to help guide you and help you later on in the professional world, because some of these students may go off into college, some of them may go off and they work in a trade, whether it be they want to be a welder, an electrician, or something like that. And so I think just instilling that type of just responsibility in them at that age, and show them it's possible, and again, a lot of them don't know that, Coach App does something outside of the classroom, and I think that's the most important part, is being able to wear that many hats and do the best job that you can possible, whichever aspect it happens to be that day. And I think for me, those were things that I learned as a kid playing multiple sports. It's because you always have to be able to change and adapt to do what's required of you for that particular sport or aspect in life.
That's what I loved about sports. Like I enjoyed a lot, like, going out and parties and things like that. And and that was where I would grab myself from unconsciously, honestly. Like you're saying, like I feel like you have an opportunity to drink, and you have an opportunity to party and get out all night, and you have an opportunity to try all these things. And what took me back was like, no, but I want to go to the gym tomorrow. Or like I want to go run, or like I want to perform in my basketball game. So it's like it takes you back a couple steps. And so like you're saying, I feel is that structure that I also lived, and I'm trying to, like, that's what I can share, or we can share from what we lived. And like it does give you that path that if you kind of like relate it to your life, it can reflect on your work, on yourself, or like everything. Like, so I think it's really important that you're not only saying it, but you're like doing it, and therefore showing it to them that it's like, hey, you can do it. Like if I can do it, you can do it.
Super important,
Yeah. So talking about education, your work with the next generation, every single day, how do you see them approaching the decision of what to do with their lives, and what does work mean to them? Because I feel generationally the definition of work has changed. So you are there, like in that point where they're like talking about it, like what they're gonna do, and how they feel about it. Like, I don't want to work, or work is cool or it's not cool. Like, what is it happening right now, or what?
I think for most kids, again, I think at that teenage, those teenage years, I think the biggest thing they're afraid of is failure, and I see it every day. And it's a trend that you talk to any young person, and they need the clarification, or they need to know, like, is this right? Am I doing the right thing? And what I tell them is like, the worst thing you can do is not try. Worst thing you can do is not try. Try it, let's figure it out. If it's wrong, we have an opportunity to correct it. And I think that's one of the things that young people really need reminders of, is that as you start to grow and you're going to pursue these different, career paths, and it may not be the right one at first, but you don't know until you try it. And just like in sales, the worst thing people can say is no. That's the worst thing they can say is no. And then with any other aspect, the worst thing you can do is maybe you fail at first. Well, let's see what happened that may not have made us be successful, and then we learn from that. So career-wise, I think it's more important to take, to try everything at a young age. I think as you grow older, then you start to make more calculated risks. But I think it's more so finding your passion. Can I make this passion profitable first and foremost?
Yeah, that's the dream.
That's the dream. Can I make this passion profitable?
Yeah.
And if so, great. But I think that's, it goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning is how can this career path or this career choice allow me to live the life that I want to live.
Exactly.
And I think that's the most important part for young people as well. I still want to have fun and I still want to go do the things, but it's like, okay, but at your age, there's going to be a lot more sacrifice to be able to get to that, point. I think we see so many things with social media right now, and you have people that, physicians and lawyers and people that make a ton of money and they're out on their vacations and they're out, buying expensive things. Well, that's all great. And people are saying, well, they're just so lucky. And it's like, no, they work really hard. You just don't, you just don't see it because,
that's not what they post.
That's not what they post. Nobody wants to see that. They all want to see the fun stuff. And it's like, just reminding them that no, you got to work really hard, to get the things that you want. And with this younger generation, they have opportunities on social media to be able to make that profitable now, which I think is great.
I feel like now that you're saying it and I'm thinking about it, I feel like, okay, so we are overexposed right now.
Very much so.
I understand totally that fear of like, I don't know who I am,
right? But
yet I have all these tools that I can use to put myself out there. But to put yourself out there, we know it's not just anything. Like we do it in an age that I don't really mind that much because I have my family, I have my friends, I have my kids. Like I mind about what my kids are gonna think about my content, definitely. But that's my main concern. But as a young person, you care about all this. It's not silly because it's important at that age. But you're like, okay, I have all these tools, but I'm afraid that what if I make a fool out of myself? Or what if so it will be like hard to explain. And because you cannot guarantee that they won't do it wrong.
Right, exactly.
So it's a hard thing to
it's just you don't know you don't know till you know. You don't know till you try it. I know right now, I mean, image is everything, and I think that's in every aspect. It's image as a young kid and image as an adult, and like you said, the content that we now make as adults, which is we're learning probably more from the younger generation, like how did that person do that, and how are they just so good at it? And the only way that you're going to realize or find out is if you just try and do it yourself. And I know, like, we talked about a little while ago, just us now trying to create more content as adults to be able to let people know what we do on an everyday basis. And it's not going to be perfect, but I think as long as it's something that you're constantly trying to improve, it's everybody has their own business model, and everybody's going to have their way of their exposure and what people see. But I think as long as you're staying true to who you are, and sometimes me and my personality, I can be a little bit blunt at times, and if you ask those people in my very close circle, they laugh because it's I will be who I am to an extent, but I'm also really good at reading the room, and I try and do what I can to be as true to myself as I can while also respecting who I'm with or who I'm in front of, and I think that's the biggest thing for the younger generation.
But that you learn through life, though.
What's that?
That you learn it through life.
You just learn it through life,
At a young age, it's a little harder, but I think you nailed it on the fact that you're saying it's confidence. It all comes back to confidence. If you're confident, if you have a big structure, if you have someone who has your back, it's either a teacher, a friend, a coach, your parents, like if you have someone that backs you up, I feel you feel that cushion of like, if I fall, well, I'll get up, and then we'll go, and you build that resilience as you go. And if you do, then whenever you're our age, then maybe you'll be something bigger than us. I don't know, we'll see. Okay, so as a last question, if you had a message, and we kind of went over it, but I think like just to emphasize, if you had a message for the 25 to 35-year-old who is somewhere between figuring it all out and trying to hold it all together, what would you say to them?
I'll say, at that age, I'll say, hopefully prior to that you said yes to everything. I think your early 20s are when you need to go make all those mistakes. I'll say, when you hit, your mid to late 20s and even in your early 30s, like you said, that 25 to 35 range, I think that's more so the time, like we talked about, is taking risk, but it's more of a calculated type risk at that point. It's okay to travel to a different city to explore a career or take an opportunity that you may or may not know what's going to happen, but if it doesn't work out, can you still take care of yourself? Yeah. And I think that's probably the most important thing is understanding what's risk and understanding just what isn't just a smart, financial move. And I think as long as, you're able to provide for yourself, your family, if you have one, I think as long as those aspects are taken care of, then I say try and do whatever it is that you feel is gonna, light you up to where it makes you want to get up every day, work, go to a job, go to an office, or go explore and do your thing. But I'll say that's the biggest thing. And one of my regrets, honestly, was probably not taking opportunities in my younger years and say maybe that mid 20 to 25 age range, where maybe not taking an opportunity to go explore this job possibility in California or Pennsylvania.
Like the bigger risks.
The bigger risks, right? Yeah. Because at that point, what's the worst that can happen? You just come back home and it's fine.
So not to play it safe too young.
Not to play it safe, yeah,
After
definitely.
30, probably.
Yeah, so like I said, have a little bit of a cushion, right? I mean, obviously, make a little bit of money where you can. Like I said, it may not be enjoyable. You may have to work a 9 to 5, like everybody says. Most people have a 9 to 5, and then they're going to have their 5 to 9. Yeah. So I think that's probably more normal now than just having a regular 9 to 5. And so, can your 5 to 9 afford you the opportunity to go out and take that risk? And I think that's really important right now for anybody in that age is really trying to figure it out. Is your job now is probably not going to be the job that you have in 5 to 10 years. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that we don't realize is, you don't
need to figure it out at 20.
You don't, and people are figuring it out.
Probably at 40.
People are figuring it out in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, and there's no right or wrong way to go about doing it. I think again, it's as long as you're able to provide for yourself and your family, and, as long as those two things are taken care of, as long as you have those healthy relationships with friends, family, you afford yourself the opportunity to go out and, still have that downtime. Yeah. I say go for it and see what happens. And again, worst thing people can tell you is no. Worst thing that happens is you fail, and then you just got to do it again. Yeah.
Yeah, we all do. We are here trying.
Absolutely.
We are here discovering what we should do and how to profit. So thank you so much for being here. I think you have a really interesting journey, and we all, sometimes get our heads fixed into one thing, and it's awesome to meet people that have it a little, a more open mindset and that kind of like adventurous side, but yet hustling mindset of like, let's make things happen, but also try to have some balance during the journey, right?
Yeah, and I think that's like you said, like it's the hustle. I think that's the biggest thing you can say is like it's all just the hustle.
Be confident and learn to hustle.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.